Hello, grade 7, and welcome to today's session. Today is October 6th, and we have today decided to cover in class an introduction to our novel that we're going to be reading for the term. Okay, the novel is very short. It's only made up of 12 chapters. So we're going to divide the chapters into 6 for term 1 and 6 for term 2. You guys are going to be required to read this novel on your own independently. It's called The Outsiders. It's a very interesting novel, and it's about basically how America during the 1960s was facing what we call social division. And social division is basically when groups of people are separated according to their basically social status. All right, the wealthy hangs out with the wealthy, and the those who are um, you know not from so much privileged areas, or the poor basically also hangs out with the poor, and they're divided into groups. Okay, and what they call in other terms, gangs. Okay, and if you guys know what a gang is a group of people that get together and decide to be a part of their own family. Okay, like they build this bond between them. Okay, The Outsiders is covering a period of time that took place in the 1960s, like I said. So this PowerPoint is going to help you understand a little bit um, about it. Okay, so here, one of the biggest things about this novel is teaching us how to not judge people by their appearance. Okay, just because a person is dressed a certain way, it doesn't mean that they are, bad people. Okay, they could be dressed like this, but could be, their personality could be totally different. So always do not judge people by physical appearance. Make sure that you know them and on a personal level before you form an opinion about them. Okay, this is your author. Her name is Susan Hinton. All right, she was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1948. And remember that Tulsa, Oklahoma is also the setting of the novel. This is where the story takes place. Susan wanted to write stories that basically talked about the struggles that teenagers faced in high school, and how tough it is to try to belong to certain groups and form friends and so on. Okay? She wrote the story while she was in high school, and she actually was offered a contract to publicly publish this book. And when she did, she made sure to publish the book under the name S.E. Hinton instead of Susan, because during that time, it wasn't really accepted for females to write about tough topics. Remember, she's going to talk about gangs and violence and um, things that are not typically female topics. So she thought if she would publish this novel under a female name, she wouldn't get the attention that she wanted. So she decided to keep her name out of it and use her initials, and it sounds more, manly than Susan. Okay. She went to the University of Tulsa, all right, where she met her husband, and she became a very successful writer. All right, these are some of her books. If you guys are interested in reading more of her stories later on, all right. Uh, Again, the setting of the story is Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma is very low in population. It's only made up of 300,000 people, whereas New York is 19 million people. So you can imagine that Tulsa is a very small city compared to New York City and LA. Okay, The Outsiders was actually inspired by what was happening in the author's own high school. All right, and it's very realistic to things that she went through in her own high school. All right, so she saw these problems of segregation. All right, people belonging to one group and the other people belonging to one group, and this group had their own social status and their own social standards, while other groups had their own social status. Poor versus wealthy. The poor was allowed to only hang out in certain areas, and the rich was hanging out in certain areas. And of course, there was a lot of tension between both groups. And the groups here are called the greasers and the socs, okay? So soc is so short for the socials, and the greasers are the lower class group, and the socials are the rich uh, people's group, okay? And those two groups disliked each other and caused a lot of tension between them, okay? So we're going to read about this type of idea. Again, during that time in the 1960s, there was social division among people, okay? Again, the wealthy hung out with the wealthy and the poor. There was a lot of, ranking by by social class. All right, in the story, you need to understand that this is terminology that people used in the 1960s, okay? They called a gun a heater. So if you're reading the novel, you're going to meet this terminology, and this terminology is called slang. Okay, and slang is like informal language. It's not formal. It's not standard English. You will not find the definition of a heater in the dictionary, because then this is like street language. All right, it's like street talk. So we call the fuzz or the fuss came. That means the police came. And there's a list of slang words and definitions that I'm going to be providing for you to keep to print and keep with you as you read. So that would help you understand the terminology of the story. Okay, so these are just examples of different terminologies. They call the jail where people go, like prison, the cooler. All right, he was sent to the cooler. That means he was sent to prison. All right, so this is some of the way uh, you know the language, the lingo that was used. All right, the famous music during that time were the Beatles and Elvis. Okay, just in case you see that they're mentioned in the novel. All right, so again, the characters are living in the 1960s, particularly in 1965. All right, the story takes place in 1965 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So again, you have to live or think like the 1960s. Okay, so if they talk about music, they're talking about the Beatles and they're talking about Elvis, because that was what was popular during that time. Okay, also, this is how people dressed. All right, okay, and these are the kind of cars that people drove. They were famous for Corvettes, and Mustangs. Okay, and this is basically the introduction to the novel. All right, we also played a small game about opinions. Okay, as a book starter, we asked different questions. Okay, can you tell a lot about a person by how he or she looks? And some students agreed in class and some disagreed. I'll be posting this for you guys to answer that on your own to see where how you form your opinions. Then we looked at pictures, okay, and these pictures basically looked like this, okay. And if we look at these pictures, you guys were able to form an opinion about these people, all right. And the questions that you guys were asked to answer were the following questions, okay. So if you look at this question, it says, for example, first we look at the picture and then we ask, what is important to this person? All right, so let's look at the picture and see what would you guys say. Okay, like for example, if we look at this person, all right, this is the person that I showed them in class. All right, if we look at this person quickly, what do you think is important to this person versus when he looks like this? If we look at the first picture, a lot of you guys said that his family is important to him because he needs to earn money because he's poor and basically needs to earn a living. All right. What kind of job does he have? A lot of people in the classroom said that he looks like a farmer or maybe a coal miner or a carpenter or something that is not so, it requires more skill. Maybe he is uneducated, he works as a on land, or maybe he's a construction worker, something like that. Okay. And some we asked if we met this person, would you be friends with them? A lot of you guys said you wouldn't be. All right, because uh, he looks scary, or the way that he's dressed, or so on. Okay. After we saw him dressed like this, we saw a different image of him. It's the same person, but different clothing. All right, this person is dressed in a suit, and a lot of you guys changed your opinions. Okay, and now what is important to this person? You said his success, his career, his education. All right. What kind of job does you think he have? He's a banker, a real estater, or a CEO, or a businessman. You gave him different, completely different jobs. If you met this person, would you be friends with him? Yes, of course, we would be friends with him because he looks like he's a rich and famous and successful. All right. And he's well dressed and he looks attractive and handsome. Okay. So opinions are formed based on looks. Okay. I'll post the gallery for you. I'll post this for you guys so you could look at them and try to understand. Okay. For your homework, you guys, I posted for you the PDF version of the story. All right, it's called The Outsiders. All right, I require you guys to read chapter 1 and 2 for homework. Okay, you have a full week to do this. And I also uploaded for you under your assignment chapter 1 and 2 questions that need to be answered in your notebooks, not in the sheet, please. For chapter 1, you have 20 questions. For chapter 2, you have 12 questions to answer. You guys, please read first and then do the reading, okay? Do not forget that I'm going to also post for you um, slang definitions. Remember, slang is informal language, non-standard English, okay? A greaser is a person that belongs to this gang, the greasers. Why were they called greasers? Because they wear grease in their hair. Grease is like this oily material that they make their hair stick together, like almost like a gel. Okay, and they're considered the lower class gang. The socials are the upper class kids who have nice clothes and fancy cars. All right. The word hood is short for hoodlum or a bad kid. To bawl means to cry. So this here is your little dictionary. You're going to need it while you're reading to help you understand the meaning of these words. Okay? So please do your homework, understand the story, and study the PowerPoints if you need to go back and refer to them. They're posted. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And remember, the moral of the story is not to judge people by their looks and that no one is better than another person and there shouldn't be uh, segregation or division because the poor hangs out with the poor and the rich hangs out with the rich. We're all people and we're all humans and we should all get along perfectly fine with no violence and no tension. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be awaiting for you. Take care and goodbye.